Video game movies. Are they good? Are they bad? Do people like them? Do people hate them? Will Duncan Jones change this all around in his new film Warcraft? Let's find out in this review. That's my little intro for you guys here for this review. I am going to review the new Duncan Jones film Warcraft for you today. This film is based off of a popular video game franchise called Warcraft. It was for the PC. It's been running since the early 90s. You know, obviously World of Warcraft was, I think, the fourth installment in the franchise, I believe. And obviously that was the one that really took flight with video games and made the franchise popular, made the fantasy genre popular within video games. So obviously Warcraft had a pretty big impact on the gaming industry. And now it's worked its way into the film industry with this new movie. In this film, you guys, it's about a colony of orcs. They're kind of like these big ogre, goblin like things. So for those who saw the film Shrek, they're kind of like ogres like that more than anything else. And these orcs are living on probably a place somewhere on Earth. It's never really specific, but their home is dying and they need a new home. They find out about this magical portal that can teleport them into a kingdom that's ran by humans. And so they view this as their opportunity to find a new home and to start things over again. So they go over there. Obviously, the humans aren't too happy with this. They're happy with owning the land themselves. They don't want the orcs there. They're happy with running the kingdom without the orcs. And of course, the orcs have nowhere else to go. Their land is completely dead, so they can't go back there. There's really no choice for them. They don't know of a portal that can link them to another world, or not at least to this point yet. And so this movie's ultimately about, do the orcs stay there? How do they get the humans to be happy with what they're doing? How can they even get the humans to, be convinced that they can live there without being in the way? Obviously the humans are very accepting of the orcs and they still aren't. So this movie's all about the right and wrongs, about what does it mean to live in the same land together, be accepting of each other, what's taking over too much space, what's not having enough space to yourself. This movie explores all those things within a fantasy epic that's kind of like in the spirit of Lord of the Rings, for about a 2 hour time period. So overall, guys, Warcraft was supposed to be the film that was going to change the way that video game film adaptations were handled. Obviously, there's tons of really, really bad video game film adaptations. Uwe Boll, who's infamous for making really awful movies, he's made tons of horrible video game film adaptations. I can't even name them all off. They're all bad. Obviously, the Super Mario Brothers movie didn't do too well. Unfortunately, I'm wearing a shirt of it. I enjoy it on a cult level, so that's why I have a shirt of it. The first Mortal Kombat film was all right. The first Tomb Raider film with Angelina Jolie was all right. I think people liked it mostly because of her involvement with it. There really hasn't been a lot of really good video game film adaptations. I'm drawing a blank when it comes to the good ones. Prince of Persia to some, I guess, was passable. A lot of people just don't like it. So obviously, Warcraft was supposed to be the film that apparently was going to change the way the video game film adaptations have been handled, and hopefully putting them into the right direction, like what comic book movies have been doing since about 2008 or so, or even earlier than that if you count the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Unfortunately, Warcraft does not do this. I still think it's an okay movie. I think it's a well-directed film. I think the visuals in this film are very good. But I'm going to get into positives and negatives here as to why, for me, this film was just okay. Like I said, it really doesn't change the way you're going to look at video game film adaptations. I really don't think it's that big and impressive of a film. But let's go over those positives and negatives of Warcraft. For my positives, Duncan Jones is very talented as a director. I loved his films Moon and Source Code. I think they're excellent movies. Have great characters, great story, great action scenes when they have them. Good concepts are used for both movies. Very talented people were involved with them. Sam Rockwell was in Moon. Jake Gyllenhaal and Michelle Monaghan were in Source Code. So Duncan Jones really knows what to do as a director. So going into this movie, I knew that directing wise, it was going to be okay. And it was very well directed. It felt like the material was in the right hands. Obviously, when it comes to the story, I'm going to get to that in my negatives. But as far as giving this project to the right person, I think Universal and Legendary Pictures chose the right person. Because I do know that Duncan Jones has had experience with video game design from what I know about his background. And obviously, he has experience with film directing, so I knew that part was going to be fine. So as far as him as a director, there's tons of flair, visual flair. Definitely a lot of throwback to those Warcraft video games. So there's ways that some of these scenes are filmed or handled or remind you of some of those games that I think are very good. So clearly Duncan Jones loves these games and really tried to attempt to make the best movie that he could here. Another positive of this movie is it has great visual effects. The orcs really look like these big beings that are walking around. They seem very threatening. It does, when the environments are supposed to look realistic to our world, they do. When we're exploring the orcs' world and the places that they go into, they look like real legitimate places that they could have gone on and shot somewhere. They don't feel like they're all green screened in a studio. There's a few little shots every once in a while. It's like, oh, that looks a little too green screenish. But overall, I think the visual effects in this film are very well handled. I also thought the choice of motion capture was very good in this movie. I went into this movie not too happy that a good chunk of these CGI characters were handled with motion capture, but they did get Toby Kebbell from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and he was also in Prince of Persia, which was another video game film adaptation. And very strong use of this. I actually kind of, after seeing the movie, I do approve of the choice of motion capture. I think the choice of handling the CGI the same way that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes did, and even Rise of the Planet of the Apes did, was a good choice for this movie. I don't think these orcs would have looked as good in practical effects like I originally thought that they were going to do for this movie. So I liked the use of motion capture in this film. Very well handled once again from Duncan Jones. Toby Kebbell plays an orc in this film, and we follow a good chunk of the film following him around in this. Some of the narrative in this movie is also done by his character. A very likable character. I understood his motivations in this movie. And I really could get behind his character throughout a good chunk of the movie. I also was very much behind Paula Patton's character in this movie. She plays a character that's not completely human, not completely orc. Her character is kind of an in-between phase as far as her species goes. And I liked how her conflict in the movie is she more so with the humans or is she more so with the orcs? I thought that was interesting. It definitely asked moral questions about the way that humans and orcs handle things. Is one of them right? Is one of them wrong? And Paula Patton's character is kind of a question and answer to both of those things. So I liked how her character was a representation of both the humans and the orcs. Duncan Jones's choice of making the film feel more fun at times, because there's times in the movie where you can tell he's trying to loosen things up a little bit. He's trying not to make it seem overly serious or everybody has to be real strong and serious the whole movie. There's times where these characters get to poke fun at each other, have little funsy one-liners, and they're very fun. I can tell that Duncan Jones really wanted to make the film feel involving, so that way someone like me who knows a little bit about the games, not a whole lot, could feel more involved with what's going on in this movie. So I liked how he added those little fun little things that these characters said and did throughout the course of the movie too. Overall, I thought Duncan Jones did a great setup to this big fantasy world. I like how this world really feels like it has a long history behind it, that there was battles that took place, that there's characters that lived here long before this movie started, that these characters had grandfathers and grandmothers and parents and brothers and sisters that lived in this world too and are still living in this world. You really get the feel that this world has been around for a while, and there's both problems and good things that happen within this world. And I like how Duncan Jones sets that up very well. Now for my negatives of this movie, and my first one, this is more so about the screening I went to. So this couldn't be a problem for anybody else, but maybe for those who see it in this format of film, might run into the same problem that I did. I saw this film in an IMAX 3D screening, and for some odd reason, the sound was way too loud. I've been to IMAX screenings before, and normally, they're loud. They're supposed to be. It's supposed to be the best sound quality and best image quality, but this film felt unusually too loud. It felt very like boom, like your earbuds are about to, like you're gonna lose your sense of hearing. And as a result, the dialogue feels way too soft. There's times where I almost had to put an ear up to the screen just to be able to hear what a character was saying at times. I don't know if that was an IMAX problem at all, or if that's a movie choice. But if they can somehow fix the audio in this so that the sound isn't so bursting loud and so that the dialogue is so soft for like the DVD and Blu-ray release of this, I think that'd be a smart choice on Universal's behalf. Like I said, I have no problem if that was the theater I went to for this movie, or if this movie made the choice of making it really, really loud with the sound and really soft with the dialogue. But it really needed to be fixed. It was very noticeable in this movie for the screening that I saw it in. And overall, the characters in this film are very uninteresting. I was very uninvolved with them. I was very unengaged with them. I really did not care about these characters, besides the Paula Patton character and the Toby Kebbell one, who are both, Paula Patton's half human, half orc, and Toby Kebbell's an orc. Besides those two characters, I really didn't care about anybody else. I didn't care about the human characters. I didn't care about the wizard characters. I didn't care about the other orcs besides the ones that I mentioned with Paula Patton and Toby Kebbell. I just was not engaged and involved in those characters, and that's really too bad because Duncan Jones's previous films are very character driven. This one, unfortunately, not so much. This is also a very poorly written script. I really did not like the script for this movie. I felt the story was very weak. I thought that it was good for a while and then it just reached a stopping point and it didn't go anywhere from there. So I really was not a big fan of the script of this movie. I also thought the musical score, on top of the really loud sound, was just a very lame musical score. It felt very generic. It felt very uninspired. Did not care for the musical score in this movie. There was a subplot involving wizards in this movie. Really unnecessary. Didn't need to go there. I thought the wizard characters could still be in this movie. They could introduce that there's wizards that exist in the World of Warcraft for the film universe. The way the subplots were handled for them, I did not care for at all. They kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, to be honest. I thought this film really could have just focused on the humans and the orcs, specifically the orcs, since they were the most interesting. Did not need all these subplots about the wizards. Very distracting and very unnecessary. This film can also be pretty tricky to follow, especially if you don't know a lot about World of Warcraft. I guess I kind of fall into that category, so that sucks to be me. Um, Very questionable about the costume design in this movie too. Some of it seemed really cheesy. And I really had no urge to see a sequel after seeing this film, even though this film very, very much desperately so wants to set up and get us interested in a sequel. And I just don't feel the urge to see a sequel after seeing this movie. So overall, Warcraft, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's an okay film. I think if you're really big on World of Warcraft and love those games, I think you'll have fun with this film to a certain extent. If you know nothing of Warcraft, if you're not interested in learning anything about Warcraft, I think you can skip this one. I think it's an okay, like a rainy day Redbox rental, but nothing really more than that. I myself will probably not watch this film again, to be honest. So 7 out of 10, it's okay, but a very flawed production that just so happens to be made by a very good and talented director.